Have you ever dreamed of turning CNC into a side hustle, especially as you approach retirement? Like, that'd be really cool to have something to do and make a little money on the side once I retire. Today, I'm talking to someone who is doing just that. In this episode, we'll learn how he's balancing working a 9 to 5, but also carving out time to build a side hustle, the challenges he's come up against, and ultimately what motivates him to keep going. So whether you're looking to start a CNC side hustle or just inspiration for your CNC hobby to fill your time, Mike's story is one you're not going to want to miss. So make sure you stick around the end to hear the entire thing. Let's get started. Getting your foot wet in CNC, like what was the inspiration? What made you want to do it?
Yeah, well, I've been a woodworker for many years, made many projects over the years, learned from my grandfather. And actually, I still use his Sears Craftsman table saw that I have the receipt for when he bought in 1979.
Wow, that's really cool.
So that's kind of a nice memory to have when I work in the shop.
Yeah.
And I've also always been interested in technology. My career has been as a software engineer. So, started doing a lot of different things in the shop, and then reach a point where I was like, how can I kind of combine the technology and the woodworking? I know a lot of people call it cheating, but there's a lot that goes into making something come off of that CNC that's of any kind of value at all. And I bought my first CNC in the middle of the pandemic.
Okay.
Stuck working at home, doing different things, and I started thinking about maybe now's the time to do it. And we got a decent bonus that year at work, so I decided I would jump in.
Sweet.
Some of the things that I thought about, I know now I've heard in conversations on Discord with the other members of the founding group and stuff from you and others, that I probably could have started out a lot cheaper than I did. I bought a CNC Shark, an HD 520, so it's a 2 foot by 4 foot machine. So it's a 2.5 horsepower spindle, and it's water cooled, so it can run for hours, and it doesn't get hot at all. And I wanted the size for something I haven't gotten to yet, but in the past I've built cedar strip canoes. And one of the things I wanted to do was cut my own patterns, molds, to make another cedar strip canoe.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's something I dream of doing. I don't know. For some reason, I think of like that being really complicated, like building a canoe.
And it depends on the method you use.
Okay. All right.
I built cedar strip from a book that was written by a guy here in Maine, actually, who was a high school shop teacher. And he uses a very simplistic kind of form, simpler than what a lot of people do, but I built it completely from scratch. I milled the cedar strips, and then I beaded them on one side, coved them on the other, and cut out the frames with a jigsaw, which is why I'd like to make them on a CNC now.
A little more accurate.
But it was a lot of fun. We actually had one of the local high schools had an adult ed program where they went through building a cedar strip canoe, and one of the guys in the course was able to get us some cedar lumber at a really good price, and kind of went from there.
Nice.
So that was kind of part of the target goal for getting the size bed that I did. A lot of them were smaller. The 2 foot by 4 foot would just be big enough to make the largest pattern for the 16 foot canoe that I want to do.
Okay.
Most of what I've done since has been smaller scale. A few larger things, but mostly smaller scale. I think the other thing that I liked about that CNC was that it came with VCarve Pro.
Okay.
So I didn't have to buy that separately. And that was a bit of an expense. So So even though I spent a little more, I know you talk about people are spending $2,000 to $3,000 on a starter machine. I spent $5,000 on them.
Yeah, $5,000 for now. This is 2024, so 4 years ago.
Yeah,
I guess I'm assuming 2020. You said pandemic.
2020 or 2021.
Okay, so 3 years ago. Yeah.
Three
Um,
plus.
honest, honestly, I think 5,000 is not. I don't think you overspent.
No, no, I think I got good value.
Yeah, you got good value for what you got, and VCarve Pro is $800 purchase, 600 somewhere in there. I think it was eight. Maybe. So for that size machine, I think you did very, very well.
Yeah, the price was pretty good.
Yeah, yeah,
Other comparable machines were in the $7,000 and $8,000 range.
yeah. That's great. So going back to that 2021, the very beginning, you got your CNC. What was the biggest learning curve you experienced?
For me, one of the things that was tough was learning to use the Vectric software to come up with a decent design that would come out as I envisioned. Um, it took a little bit of time, and I found one of the things that helped me was using something like Etsy and buying some designs and then tweaking them to fit what I wanted to do. The first one that I worked my way through was just a small lidded box that had a lid that had an overlap onto it so that to hold it in place. And I found it on YouTube. I guess it was a guy had done a demonstration of making this box, and it was like a little ring box. And, one of the things he said was leave a comment, and I'll send you the CNC files. Well, he never sent the CNC files.
Oh man, come on!
And I saw people go back in his comments for the next year. Where are those files? Where are those files? So finally, I decided to just jump in and figure it out myself. And it was a great learning experience because it had multiple tiers. Both the bottom and the lid were made from a single piece of 1 inch thick wood. So you cut the bottom at the bottom half of the thing and the lid upside down just above it. So you had to hollow out the bottom, hollow out the lid, cut the step into the bottom where the lid was going to overlap, and have both pieces come out looking the same thickness when you're done. If you look at it from the profile, the bottom and top are the same height. And it took, as somebody new with that software, it took me a while to lay it out and learn how to kind of align things and get them to come out the way I wanted. The first couple were really loose and falling apart, and then some that wouldn't go together at all. And I finally got it right, and it was pretty satisfying to kind of work through that and come out with something that was useful.
Yeah, that's great. Was there? I know you mentioned buying files and editing them as a solution, to that barrier. Was there any resources that you found useful, like learning Vectric? I didn't know, or are you just trial by error?
Well, I started out trial by error, but I've on YouTube found different people. Obviously, I found your site, and I can't think of his name right now. But there's a guy he must have 100 different Vectric tutorials. Guy with a big bushy mustache. I can't think of his name.
Oh, Mike Lindsay.
Yeah. So I went through a bunch of his stuff, and he had some pretty good stuff. And then Vectric does a pretty good job of putting free projects out there for people to work on. Those are probably the big ones.
Yeah, I think that's often overlooked. Like, I don't think so. Vectric does a good job of putting out projects for people to do, but it's almost like they don't advertise those free projects, and maybe they do, but I don't hear a lot of people talking about them. That's a great place to start, though. Like they,
No, I've gotten them in their newsletter or that kind of thing. So I think when you register your software, you can sign up for their newsletter and you'll get notifications. They have that in the shop with Becky
yep, yep,
that they do. Now they have a couple of other folks too that'll demo different projects. And sometimes you learn things by accident. I I was on. I think I've told you before. What I've been making is trays, and I was trying to find something to make them somewhat unique because everybody makes trays. And I come up with these trays with engravings in them. So I had these 6x9 trays, and in the middle part of the tray, I've been engraving things like butterflies and dragonflies. I've got one with a trout, um, different things like that, a bee in a hive. Um, and I was looking for something with pets. And I found on Etsy a whole Vectric project plan. This guy was selling that. He said, he was at a craft show and he showed a picture of his table from this craft fair. And he said, caught him totally off guard. What sold the most was he had two trays. One had a dog engraved in it and one had a cat engraved in it. And so I went to his Etsy page and I bought them and downloaded them. And the way he went about making them was taking the SVG file, convert it, pull it into Vectric, and then highlight the entire thing and offset it.
yeah,
And what you end up with is the shape of that object that you're going to engrave. So with the dog's head, it was shaped like the dog's head. The ears outlined at the top, and it was. I was just like, why have I never thought of this before? Or why have
yeah,
I never seen this before?
yeah. It's so when you told me that the first time, I was like, yeah, it's such a great thing, and it's that's so simple that but you could make any shaped tray.
Yeah, I've made several pets. I had a silhouette of a dog and a cat, and I did one of my butterfly designs. I enlarged it a little bit and did it with that. And those are what I've put up on Etsy, is trays like that. So that's a whole new adventure.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, what I've done mostly with my CNC between the time I got it and now is making things for friends and family, making things for myself. Um, we do a big charity event for the local Elks Lodge. Does a big charity event every year for Maine Children's Cancer Program, which is part of the Maine Medical Center up here in Portland. And they have a live auction typically, and I've made a lot of things, cribbage boards. I actually made a 3-foot long bench out of a live edge slab of cedar, and I engraved the entire top of it with the MCCP logo, and it came out great, and it sold for a lot of money at the auction, so that was even better. But that's so it's been mostly that kind of stuff, and my goal is I'm hoping in the next year or so here to really push the retirement thing. And if I retire before I'm 65, I got to buy insurance. You got a lot of expenses, and I'm thinking if I'm going to do a retirement side hustle, it might as well be something that I enjoy doing. And I'd like to think I can make that work with the CNC.
yeah. You totally can. We've talked about it a lot.
Well, yeah. I mean, I from going through both of your courses, I've got a lot of ideas around that, and one of the things I have to get over is, the nature of software engineers is that we're a little bit introverted, and when you guys talk about the trade shows and things, that's a little intimidating to me. And then the other side of that is because I'm not totally confident yet in the products that I've made, and not as far as their quality, but am I making something that people are going to want? Uh, I did take the standard advice of I made a bunch of them and I gave them away to folks, asked them for feedback, and then incorporated some of that into what I've done. One of the first things I got for feedback was that they were probably too small. They were probably 5 inches by 7 inches or thereabouts. So I bumped them up to 6 by 9, and people were like, oh yeah, that's more useful. I can put things in that, a little easier. And, um, but for the most part, people have thought they were pretty cool. I did some research on Etsy on what are the keywords, what are the things people are looking for. It's how I came up with a butterfly. In 2023, butterfly was like the biggest search item in on Etsy.
Yeah, it's interesting that when you said earlier, butterfly and dragonfly, I'm like, where did he get that? Because I've come across those as well. And so there's a reason why we have a dragonfly lantern.
Mm-hmm.
It's because dragonfly was another one of those searched items.
Two of my sister-in-laws and a couple of my nieces, I had given butterfly trays to. And one of my other nieces said to me, well, I'm not really a butterfly person. If you had one that was a dragonfly, I'd be interested. I said, oh, okay, I can do that. So that's how I ended up with the dragonfly.
Well, I think it's really neat that you, so the people that I see the most successful are the people that are like, and this may be hard. This may be hard. With your tech background, things need to be correct and accurate in order to work. But the people I see the most successful. I said this the other night on our Inner Circle live stream, was they fall in love with the evolution of the product, right? Like, and always trying to make it better. The people that fall into the trap and usually get disappointed, those people I talk to are the ones that think of it as a finish line. And like my product, I'm going to make this product. It's never going to change. I'm not going to change anything. And I expect it to do well. And that is just most of the time trying to put a square peg in a round hole. I guess the analogy of when you're learning and adapting and listening, at least you're whittling that square peg. You're whittling it down, and you're going to eventually get it to fit in that hole. And so that's really cool. I think that's good.
Well, I think that comes somewhat from my software engineering background. Working in technology, things change constantly. Nothing ever stays the same. And that's sort of one of the ways I've gotten through my career, is by constantly adapting to what's the next big thing, what's the next technology coming out. And that has served me well. And so I don't necessarily see that as the end. One of the next ideas I've had about these trays is, what if I scale them up and make them more of a wall art kind of thing? It might be hard to do in walnut and maple because you're going to be gluing up a lot of it, and if you engrave it, does it, engrave okay? But I see a lot of people doing wall art with, certain types of plywood or things like that. So that'll be my next experiment. See if I can scale it up. And I've actually already looked at some other wall art type things that I found. That seems to be a popular. And I think you said it the other night. Home decor is a very popular thing.
It is. Yep. Home decor is big, and I think there's such an opportunity there, and it does take effort. It's not easy just to plop something on the CNC and print it out and, oh, it's wall decor. But two, I think if you go down a certain path and like a certain not path, but aesthetic or something along those lines, there's so much opportunity there. I think that'll be great. I think you just keep evolving and enjoying the process. I think it's it'll serve anybody well,
I've had a lot of people ask for signs as well.
Yeah.
And those can be tough because a lot of times they're very specific.
Yeah.
So they're custom, and you have to do a lot of design work, and you're really only selling one.
Yep. Yep.
Although I have come up with a couple that seem generic enough that I found this phrase. I think I found it on Temu of all places. This phrase that said, "Bourbon is a vegetable," and then underneath it said, "51% corn by law." So there's so I have one of my nieces, her husband is really into bourbon. So I made up one of these signs, and it says "Bourbon is a vegetable" over the top and bottom, and in the middle I found this sort of cartoonish looking farmer holding corn stalks. And so I put that phrase on the sign and put it together. And I said, what do you think of something like this? And he said, "That's pretty cool. I'd put that in my bar."
I was thinking that would do well here in Kentucky. I think.
Well, yeah, you're in bourbon country, so yeah, it would do well. But I did a sign last week for a friend of the family was moving on from a job that, not by his choice, but the company was shutting down. He had been there for 23 years through 5 different owners, and a couple of people came up with some ideas for a plaque they'd like to give him. And we worked out the design in just a few minutes and put it together, and it came out great. He loved it. So those are cool things, but I don't know how much you can market them. And that's my big thing is I need to learn more about marketing.
I know you took my course, the CNC Side Hustle. There's a ton of marketing material in there, but what are your plans going forward with learning marketing?
Well, I'm trying to figure out that right now the immediate thing is figuring out how to get my stuff to show up in Etsy. I guess, on the surface, people think, "Oh, Etsy's great. You just throw your stuff up there and people buy it." It doesn't really work that way.
Nope, it does not.
And in your course too, it's there's a reason they give you like 13 keywords that you can use, and a number of photos, and try to tell you you should put a video, because videos, those listings sell better. So there's a lot that goes into just getting your stuff out there. And the funny thing for me the other night was I got all of this stuff out there posted, and I'm going out looking for it, and I can't find it in a search. And I'm thinking, well, if I can't find my own stuff, how's anybody else going to find it?
Yeah. It's I always found Etsy weird though with that. Like sometimes I can't even find my own shop. I don't know why they make it so difficult to do that. There's probably a reason, but I think E-Rank. We talked about E-Rank in the course. Going back to E-Rank, and I think you can. I'll have to look again. I forgot what tab it was, but I know you can go in after it's been a little while. You can see where your like how well your products are performing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely something, probably an easy way to do it.
Yeah, I was at the point where I had been putting it off long enough. I said, I just have to get something out there. And again, it was that, it's got to be perfect as soon as I list it. And I finally had to get over that and just, let me get this out there, and then I can continue, tweaking it as I go and make modifications as I need to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you broke the ice.
Yeah.
Now, so quick story. For some reason, I could talk on camera, like making a YouTube video, but I couldn't, like, it was really hard for me to talk on like Instagram stories, because Instagram stories, you're not editing them. It's you shoot it and then you send it out to the world, right?
Yeah.
And I still remember forcing myself, this was 3 or 4 years ago, like, no, I'm going to do this. And it was the most awkward thing, but it was just like, I just had to do it. And it wasn't as bad as obviously we make it out to be worse, or we think it has to be better than it really does. And Yeah. I think I said something like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just trying to get better at this.
Well, and I had a bad initial experience with Etsy when I first put my shop together a while back, and I put one item out there just kind of as a trial thing, and like the next day I got a notification from Etsy saying my account was suspended. And I did some research, and people saying, "Oh, when they suspend your account, you never get it back," and it's this and that. And there's a whole process you have to go through to communicate with Etsy. And it took me a good week to have them then finally come back to me and say, "Oh, we're sorry, you were suspended by accident, and we've reinstated everything." And I'm like, "Great," but it put this fear in me of, "Oh, I better make sure I get everything out there perfect, or this is going to happen again." And that's another one of those things I finally just had to kind of get over it and say, you know what? If they suspend me, they suspend me. I need to I'm trying to do everything right, and need to get something out there. So
yeah, it's one of those fluke things that, I hate that happened to you. So I'm running a test right now. I'm on Etsy. So what should I search? See if you come up.
my store is called Woodcrafted Home, all run together, and I put my stuff in the category of what was it? It was decor and trays, and there were 4 parts to it. Let me see if I can go and look at them.
All right, I found your shop. I searched for the shop.
Yeah, if you search for shop, you can find it, and there's 2 listings there.
Yep, cool.
What I did was I separated the shaped type trays from the standard rectangular ones.
Love it.
I don't know if it makes sense or not, but I used the multiple pictures as the headline. So, more than just one of the trays. And what's interesting is, here it's not showing it. And then I actually even noticed you've got your shop active again for the Christmas season.
Yep.
And I noticed yours, and everybody seems to have their stuff up as a sale. So it's okay, there must be something to that. So I put them up at the price that I was going to charge, and then did a 15% sale.
Yeah, there's just creating urgency. So the thing that it does is that it go back to yours. It creates, okay, one, it's on sale, right? But 2, it Etsy puts sale in the search results. It shows that your item's on sale. And so that's really the trick. It's not really after they click, it's on that search page, and it grabs people's attention, 15% off, or.
So I'm trying to incorporate all of the little things I've learned in the course and seen other people do, and we'll see how it goes.
All right, one tip I've got for you right here.
Yep.
Your title.
The title of the listing?
Of the listing, yeah. So you got engraved wood catch-all tray, which is great. But this is another SEO opportunity to get found. Mm-hmm. This is where I'll send you a link afterwards. I'll send you a message and tell you where it is in the course. But yeah, basically we want to take our tags and repeat some of them in the search.
In the title?
In the title, yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think I remember seeing that in the course.
Yep. There's a lot of information in there. But like you said, this is fantastic that you got it up. You got going. You can make these changes. There's nothing like keeping you from getting a sale right now. And now it's just optimizing and making it a little bit better.
Well, yeah, and I have to do probably, the multiple listings for the same thing,
Yep.
So those were just the start, and then I can go from there.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, you should be proud of yourself. You got it up there.
Yeah, I was pretty happy yesterday when I finally got it out there and got it live.
Yep.
So my
Yep.
wife's
Love
been
it.
telling her friends to go look.
Well,
And the other thing I have to do, I do not, believe it or not, for someone who works in technology, I do not have a Facebook account.
okay. I mean,
I've never got into it. I never used it. I mean, I use things like LinkedIn because it's
yeah,
more of
yeah,
a
yeah.
professional career site. But my wife has a Facebook account, and actually, I'm probably going to create one because it probably makes sense. But she's been posting on Facebook, you know, the stuff that I've put up and links to it and those kinds of
Cool.
things.
Yep.
So hopefully that will help. And I'll just keep doing my research on figuring out how to get those things found.
I've been working on some other strategies too. I'm constantly learning, and um, there's some interesting some interesting things out there that like none of it is like a silver bullet. None of it's like like you do this and boom, but just some other sales strategies that I'm still working on and looking at how to incorporate them. Uh, but definitely I'll keep putting it out there and keep everybody updated as I learn more, because it's a moving, like you said, always learning, and and I think you have to be in the online space. If you're not learning new things, you're.
Yeah, it's always changing.
So are you still working right now? Are you still working the day job right now?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's part of the issue too. Is
Yeah.
you've got to
Time.
put aside a whole lot of time. I mean, all of this stuff takes a lot of time, and you've got
Yeah.
to put aside that time, after working hours. And
Yeah. So on that note, how are you balancing your full-time day job, and do you have is it just whenever you can get to it, or do you like do you have a somewhat of a plan, like Saturdays I'm going to spend doing this?
yeah, I try to pick a couple days a week that I'm just going to go and spend time doing this.
And that's why I focus on the side hustle. Like you could 100% blow this up into a full business. But right now I've been there, I've done that for a little while, and maybe it'll happen again. I don't know, but
Yeah, and the thing is, for me, I don't need it to be a full time business.
what's one piece of advice that you would give somebody uh, that is looking to do something similar as you? They're in a similar place in life. They're approaching retirement from their day job, and they're watching this video, and they're like, I wonder, what advice would you give them?
Probably the first thing is don't go into it thinking it's just going to be easy. There's a lot of work that still has to go into it. I'm thinking, at some point, if I reach that point where you know my shop becomes recognized and has a regular clientele, it'll be a little easier. But getting there takes a lot of work. There's a lot of new things to learn.
I know we started this conversation with, you know, your biggest challenge, biggest learning curve, and how you overcame it. But now that you've gotten to where you're at, looking back, is there one thing that you tell people that like you have to do this?
My biggest thing has been just doing research, finding people that have the experience you're looking to get, and taking advantage of that. Some of it is as detailed, or it comes down to taking some courses. Like, I've actually done both of your courses. I did your original one,
I love it. I appreciate it, man. Yeah.
and then that got me a discount on the second one. So it's like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. And there was a lot more detail in the second course. You could definitely see the progression from what you had put out the first time to what you have now. There's a lot more information there and a lot more detail.
To wrap up here, where can people find you if they want to look up Mike? Where should we send them?
Well, I do have an Instagram. My Instagram is msmanual61.
And then let's get to there's going to be people that want to check out your Etsy shop. What is your Etsy shop again?
It's Woodcrafted Home.
Well, this has been great. This has been great, Mike. I appreciate your time, like I said. And the other thing is too, I want to tell everybody that you can join our CNC community. It's completely free.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike's in there, I'm in there. There's a core group, I would say about 20 of us that chat every day.
Yeah.
There's actually over 700 people in that community right now.
Yeah, I noticed how it just blew up when you opened it up as a free sign up.
Yeah, and it's been great. It's brought in new people. It's a really great community. So I will leave a link in the description if anybody wants to check that out. You can chat with Mike. You can chat with the other people in there. I jump in there every day. It's a great CNC community. So I'll leave a link down in the description for that.